I've worked at Graymont Engineering for almost 2 decades. I joined fresh out of college, a kid with a degree and more ambition than sense. Over the years, I climbed every step of the ladder, first as a junior designer, then team lead, then project manager. I stayed late when no one asked me to. I trained new hires, fixed client disasters at 2 a.m., and even once pulled off a near-impossible deadline that saved our biggest contract. My loyalty was never in question. So when Mr. Alden, the founder and CEO, called me into his glass-walled office and offered me the role of head of systems innovation, I felt pride, a quiet, hard-earned kind. He said I deserved it, that I'd earned the respect of everyone upstairs, but not everyone downstairs apparently. 2 weeks after my promotion, I got an intern assigned to me. His name was Colby Weston, a tall, cocky 20-something with a sharp suit and a sharper smirk. First day on the job, he leaned back in his chair and said, "So you're the guy I'm shadowing, huh?" I smiled politely. "That's right. I'll be showing you the ropes." He didn't seem impressed. The odd thing? His onboarding paperwork came straight from HR, with a handwritten note that said, "Keep an eye on him, per Mr. Alden." That felt off, but I brushed it aside. A week in, Colby started asking strangely specific questions. Not about how things worked, but why we did them a certain way. Who approved what? Which projects brought in the most revenue? Who signed off on raises? Then came the weirdest moment. I caught him in the break room, typing notes into his phone. When he saw me, he said, "Just trying to understand how the machine runs." It was subtle, but something in me stirred. A feeling I hadn't had since high school. Competition. I first met Caleb on a Wednesday. He was introduced during the morning team huddle as a new strategic hire to streamline our operations. That's what my boss, Mr. Langston, said. Strategic hire. Streamline operations. Corporate speak for someone's being replaced. Caleb looked fresh out of college, wide-eyed, overdressed, and clueless. He gave a nervous wave and muttered something about being excited to learn from the best. Everyone turned to me, because I was the best. For 12 years, I'd been the go-to guy in that department. I knew every system, every process, every shortcut. When budgets were tight, I figured out workarounds. When the servers crashed, I stayed overnight to get them back up. I had trained half the staff myself, and now I was about to train someone else. Someone who, I was beginning to suspect, wasn't just here to learn, but to take over. Langston called me into his office later that afternoon. He smiled too much. "Derek," he said, "I want you to take Caleb under your wing. Let him shadow you. Show him the ropes." I leaned back in the chair and nodded slowly. "Sure. Any particular reason you want me to train him?" Langston didn't blink. "No one knows the systems like you do. He could benefit a lot from your experience." Of course he could. I spent the next few weeks walking Caleb through every piece of knowledge I had accumulated over a decade. At first, I kept it high level, but Langston kept pushing. Let him see how you run the budget reports. Let him lead next week's client onboarding with your supervision. Let him become me. But Caleb wasn't just any fresh hire. He asked questions, but not the right ones. He seemed more interested in the inner workings of the department than in learning how to manage it. He took a lot of notes. He asked for files that weren't part of his job scope. He started attending meetings I hadn't invited him to, and he had access way too early. I found that odd. Usually, new employees had to go through an approval chain to get into the financial systems. But Caleb already had full read and write access by his second week. When I asked it about it, they shrugged. Came from Langston himself. By the third week, I knew something was off. I went home and told my wife, Jenna, over dinner. "He's replacing you," she said flatly, without even looking up from her plate. I chuckled nervously. "It's not official." She raised an eyebrow. "You trained your own replacement before, remember? When they phased out the Chicago office. It starts the same way." She was right. The signs were there. I just didn't want to see them. But I was about to. I came in early one morning, earlier than usual. The office was quiet, lights dimmed, the kind of silence that tells you something's about to go wrong. I walked past my cubicle and noticed Caleb already there, sitting at my desk. Not beside it, not near it, at it. He was logged into my terminal, my chair, my coffee mug on the desk like it belonged to him. He flinched when he saw me. "Oh, hey, sorry, I didn't think you'd be in this early." "Clearly," I said, stepping forward. "Why are you on my machine?" He gave that sheepish, over-friendly grin I'd come to resent. "Langston asked me to pull the vendor contracts for the review this Friday. I couldn't access them from my profile, but they were open on yours, so he logged in as me?" That night, I checked the activity log on my workstation. Multiple documents had been downloaded under my credentials. Documents I hadn't touched in months. Contracts, vendor histories, expense reports. It felt like someone was building a case. I wasn't paranoid. Not yet. But I started documenting everything. Times, conversations, file changes. I even installed a keystroke logger on my own machine. Not to spy, but to have proof that if something happened under my name, it wasn't me. A few days later, Langston called a meeting with just me and Caleb. The moment I walked into the room, I knew what it was. Langston's expression was regretful. Caleb sat beside him, looking too comfortable. "Derek," Langston began, "we've reviewed some concerns about outdated practices in the department. The board believes it's time for a leadership transition." I didn't say anything. I just waited. "That means we'll be moving Caleb into a more senior role." There it was. "And your role?" he added. "We're restructuring. Your position as it currently exists will be dissolved effective the end of next week." They had already filed the paperwork. Caleb's promotion had been pre-approved. My access was scheduled to be revoked that Friday, and the best part? They wanted me to assist with the transition. "You'll be compensated for the remaining 2 weeks, Langston said. "And of course, we'll provide a letter of recommendation." A recommendation? After 12 years? I stood up, calm, too calm. "Is this because of performance?" I asked. Langston shook his head. "It's purely strategic." I turned to Caleb. He didn't meet my eyes. And that's when I knew. He had helped design the strategy. I left the office without saying another word. But I wasn't going to just walk away. Because what they didn't know was that I had already seen what they were planning. And I had been quietly planning too. I spent that evening at my kitchen table, laptop open, coffee going cold. I wasn't stewing in anger. Not exactly. I was dissecting the pattern, what they'd done, how they'd done it, step by step. You see, when you spend over a decade building something, you notice when people start taking it apart, quietly, piece by piece. Caleb had planted his moves carefully. He wasn't stupid, but he was arrogant. And arrogance makes people sloppy. He'd accessed sensitive files under my name. That alone was enough to flag him. But there was more. The vendor I'd recommended for our international expansion last year, the one Caleb claimed was too expensive, had suddenly been replaced by a company owned by Caleb's cousin. I found the incorporation documents. Same last name, same address, hidden behind a shell company. So much for ethics. I printed everything. Emails, file logs, a copy of the fake contract signatures that didn't match the originals I'd signed. I didn't confront them. Not yet. Instead, I reached out to a friend of mine, Marisol, an attorney who'd worked on corporate ethics investigations. We met over lunch the next day. She read everything in silence. When she finished, she looked up and said, "Derek, this isn't just wrongful termination. This is fraud. And if the board doesn't know about it yet, they will." The next Monday, I showed up to the office as scheduled. No scene, no shouting. I walked Caleb through a few mock scenarios, showed him how to generate the quarterly vendor reports. He smiled too much, tried to act like none of it was personal, but I was done pretending. I handed Langston a sealed envelope. "I'm not interested in your recommendation letter anymore," I said, "but someone else might be interested in what's in this." He didn't open it right away. He probably didn't need to, because 2 hours later, Caleb was called into a meeting behind closed doors. The CFO was there, legal counsel, HR. By the end of the day, Caleb's desk was empty. Langston didn't say a word to me. Not that day, not the next. But 2 weeks later, I got a call. They wanted me back. Not just back, but with oversight over the department. Langston was transitioning to another division, quietly, permanently. I said no, because I didn't need to go back to prove anything. I'd already won.